Welcome back to another episode of the Vendetta Sports Fantasy Show. Today is September 16th. We are recording this at night. It's a two-man crew, 100% Canadian, myself and Cayne Lander. Cayne, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. So we're just going to go right into it with a lot of news. After week one, we got a lot of news. So first up, Michael Thomas is expected to miss multiple weeks. How does this affect the receivers and other pass catchers on the Saints in terms of their fantasy value?
I think it automatically drops Drew Brees' value, obviously. But I think that Emmanuel Sanders, he wasn't healthy this week. But when he does get healthy, I think he'll probably take the bulk of the catches. And then I think it opens the door as well a little bit for Deontay Harris, who's traditionally just been, sort of a gadget guy, a returner, hasn't really contributed in any really substantial way. But if you are in a league where return yards are counted for points, I know there's some leagues that don't do that. But if you're in a league where, returns count for something, return yards, then Deontay Harris could be, one of those kind of like, who the fuck is that guy kind of deals where nobody would have drafted him. I bet you his, percentage of people who have him rostered, on ESPN and on other fantasy sites is probably sub 30. But you can expect him to catch a bulk of the passes, especially if Emmanuel Sanders can't get healthy. I don't really see anybody else on the roster really making a huge contribution. I mean, Traquan Smith, Benny Fowler. I mean, my picks would be Deontay Harris and Emmanuel Sanders for their fantasy value to go way up.
I would say that you should also watch out for Jared Cook, the tight end for the Saints, because last year – he was the number 2 guy. Like, it was Michael Thomas and then him, the tight end. And then with Michael Thomas out, I can definitely see him getting more targets, more catches, more yards, more touchdowns. And I also think this, in a way, benefits Alvin Kamara too, because when you lose a receiver like Michael Thomas, that's over 100. That's over 100 catches, well over 100 catches that are just taken out. That's a large percentage of the targets just removed, and they have to go to someone else. Drew Brees doesn't quite have the arm strength to go downfield, so I can see him doing a lot of checkdowns to the running back, a lot of screens, a lot of swing passes like that. So watch out for Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook to light it up in fantasy this week.
Right, and like the thing with Alvin Kamara too is they already try to throw to him like 1,000 times a game too. So they already trust him. It's not like it would be a massive step for Kamara to catch, 12 balls a game versus if he caught 7 or 8 balls a game before. So it's hard to say. I think Drew Brees gains the respect that he's going to figure it out no matter what. I think Sean Payton's going to figure it out no matter what. Another guy that you could probably expect to get a lot more touches is Taysom Hill in the receiving. So Taysom Hill's the definition of a Swiss Army knife in the NFL. The guy plays quarterback, guy plays running back, guy plays receiver and tight end.
Special teams.
Everything.
All
like,
that
the guy can tackle, the guy can catch, the guy can run, the guy can throw. He's if you were a baseball player, we'd refer to him as a 5-tool guy. But I really think that for some reason, they think Taysom Hill is like some stud. And, I mean, he is a stud in his versatility, but he's not – he's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And but I think given how much the Saints love him, given how much they pay him, now that Michael Thomas is out, I think that gives them room to, work him into the game plan, whether that be running the ball, whether that be passing the ball, or whether that be catching the ball. So that might be an interesting little twist for fantasy owners. If they wanted to pick up Taysom Hill, you may see some things that you like.
Definitely. So moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle is not practicing, but they expect him to play. Do you believe that he's going to play? And if he does, what capacity will he be used in? Will he be 100%? Will he only see 50% of the snaps he normally would? What are your thoughts?
I mean, they're so secretive about how bad injuries actually are in the NFL, and for good reason. They should be, because they don't want teams to. It's just an extra advantage for them for teams to be like, okay, are we game planning this week for George Kittle getting most of the snaps tight end, or are we game planning the week for Jordan Reed getting all the snaps tight end, or any other, like Charlie Werner, Ross Dwelly, any of those guys. Like, it kind of keeps sort of a mystery around it. And if George Kittle ends up playing and they've game planned for him all week, then that's fine. But if they, haven't game planned for him and he ends up playing, or they've game planned for him and Jordan Reed ends up playing most of the snaps, then that could be a bad situation this week. I think George Kittle is honestly one of the toughest guys in the league. Like, everything that guy does, every play every snap he takes, everything you see him do just reeks of grit and toughness. So, I mean, I guess, like I said, we really don't know how bad it is. A lot of the time what you see with star players is if they have an injury that has the potential to get tweaked, they'll just give them the week off of practice. It's like realistically, it's not like George Kittle needs the snaps in practice. It's not like George Kittle doesn't know the playbook, or George Kittle is a true pro, and no matter, even if they install new stuff, he'll be able to run it perfectly on Sunday at the end of the day. Honestly, it's kind of trivial, but with George Kittle, my opinion of him grew a lot when I listened to the Pardon My Take podcast interview with him. And just the way he was talking about everything, I just gained so much respect for him. He has so much grit. He's been through a lot, and he's a grinder. So I think if he is physically able to play, he will play. He won't take weeks off. He's not going to be that kind of guy like Kawhi Leonard, like load management kind of thing.
Load management, fuck that.
If I had to bet money, I'd probably bet money on George Kittle playing.
Yeah. Also, talk about him being a tough guy. He pancakes the shit out of people for fun.
Oh yeah,
he laughs like a maniac.
Everybody's seen the video of him
just rolling over that Falcons defender and just laughing like a madman.
Laughing in his face too. He's literally rolling on the ground, like cry laughing after he pancakes this guy. So, like, on top of him just being tough, he's obviously a fucking psycho. So like, I don't know. Can't see any minor injury keeping George Kittle out this week, but they might encourage him to do that though, just because, I mean, Jordan Reed is a very capable backup. And so, yeah, I think he'll play, but who knows, really.
At the end of the day, in terms of fantasy value, I feel this also helps bolster whoever the hell Shanahan picks as the starting running back this week.
Mm-hmm.
Because any Kyle Shanahan running back is a good running back. Doesn't matter who the fuck you are. He will make you good. He'll put you in a position to succeed. You will produce. Raheem Mostert came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to find a way to make you viable and make you produce. And so if George Kittle is injured, like, he's far and away the number one target on that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I don't know, man. They just signed Mohamed Sanu.
You're hilarious. You're hilarious.
Mohamed Sanu sucks.
You're hilarious. But if he plays a limited amount of snaps, look for the running backs on the 49ers to be some sleepers, some waiver wire pickups. They pick up right before the week because you need someone. Since you brought it up, let's go straight into Mohamed Sanu signing with the 49ers.
I just want to talk a little bit about the running backs again. Raheem Mostert, he's fast. He's not necessarily a great receiving threat, though. Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman are receiving threats. So if you're looking to pick one of those guys up, because that would be probably a pretty low-key pickup for you, you might see them get a few catches, like Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman, just because, I mean, I'm looking at their depth chart right now. Brandon Ayuk is questionable. George Kittle is questionable. Their two starting receivers they have left are Kendrick Bourne and Mohamed Sanu. Debo Samuel is on IR. Tavon Austin's on IR. They're just running out of options at receiver. So I think look for, Shanahan to use his offensive genius a little bit and incorporate the running backs a little more in the pass game. But yes, Mohamed Sanu signing with the 49ers after getting cut. I think this is inconsequential. I don't think anything changes. His fantasy value goes up, I suppose, because now he's on a team. But he's garbage. He doesn't have many 100-yard games left in him. He doesn't have many catches left in him. And he's not explosive. Like, he kind of has the Bermuda Triangle as a receiver. Like, he isn't a super good route runner. He isn't a super good route runner. He isn't a super explosive athlete, and he can't really catch a ball very well. So I don't really know what people see in him as a receiver. But who knows? Maybe they're bringing him on as a backup quarterback.
Kill's number one guy.
He played quarterback in college, so I'm just kidding. They're definitely not doing that. But he's a trash receiver. I'm not high on Mohamed Sanu at all. I did not like him when he was in New England. And yeah, he kind of blew it a lot of the time for us last year in New England.
Kill's number one guy. Mohamed Sanu does jack shit to change that.
Yeah.
Moving on. Chris Godwin is in concussion protocol. Cayne, how do you feel about this? How does it affect other Buccaneers receivers and offensive weapons after that total shit show that was the Saints game?
If they play like they played on the weekend, it doesn't much matter who they have at receiver. I know what you're going to say because, I'm a big Tom Brady guy. Objectively as I can be, I honestly do not think Tom Brady's stat line and Tom Brady's play in general when you watch him and the loss, I don't think that was to do with Tom Brady, and I don't think that was to do with the receivers' play necessarily. I think it's to do with discipline.
Okay.
And the head coach. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the most penalized team in the NFL last year. So, I mean, it's all fine and good if Mike Evans catches the ball or Chris Godwin catches the ball for, a deep 45 yards and scores a touchdown. But if that happens 10 times and 5 of them you're coming back for holding or for offensive PI or for something stupid like that, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your receivers are. And I really think if anything, it impacts your boy Scotty Miller quite a bit. I think obviously he's the next in line there. But with concussion protocol, it's kind of hit or miss. Like, Chris Godwin could still be playing this weekend very well. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of a clean slate with Brady, right? Like, he spreads the ball out anyway to a bunch of different people usually. And like you were saying, he loves Scotty Miller. He loves throwing the ball to Scotty Miller, despite the fact that Scotty Miller was like the hard number 3 coming into this year. And I just think their fantasy value is all going to go up as soon as they start getting that rhythm, as soon as Bruce Arians decides to start running guys who get 15-yard penalties and who get penalties to,
Joe Judge approach?
Maybe not running laps, but there has to be, they have to do something. You can't make a signing like Tom Brady. You can't sign the greatest quarterback of all time and one of the best players of all time in general, and then not give him the discipline around him to flourish. And I think that's going to be, if at the end of the year, looking back, I think the one thing we're going to say Tom Brady missed the most about New England is the structure that Bill Belichick brought. Because all that stupid stuff that brought back big plays against the Saints, that wouldn't have happened on New England, and it never did. So, as far as Scotty Miller, I think that it was clear that Mike Evans and Tom Brady were off beat a little bit on the weekend. Like, Tom Brady threw that pick that was 1,000% Mike Evans' fault.
That was not Mike Evans' fault. Bruce Arians even said it is not Mike Evans' fault. It was Brady's fault.
He ran the wrong route.
Brady read the coverage wrong. Mike Evans read it right. Brady read it wrong. Bruce Arians said it was Brady's fault. I'm listening to the coach.
I don't know. I think it looked pretty clear by the way Mike Evans was walking away, and by the way Tom Brady was talking to Mike Evans, that Mike Evans fucked up.
And Bruce Arians doesn't like backing up his quarterbacks.
He was already talking shit about him this week, so. Last year he was talking about cutting Jameis in like week 4. So, I mean, who knows? Anyway,
as this comes back to the Scotty Miller discussion, Scotty Miller was in fact tied for the best fantasy receiver on the Bucs in standard leagues. I was making this point to you on Twitter. I spent $1 on Scotty Miller. You spent how much on Godwin?
It doesn't matter.
Too much. And point is, Scotty Miller is going to be improving. Brady was looking for him multiple times on the weekend. That number of targets is only going to rise as he's going to be forced and elevated to play if Chris Godwin does in fact miss a game. In the concussion protocol, I'm not going to say it doesn't make sense, but it's hard to put a timetable on it.
Yeah, it really is, because, I mean, a lot of the time, just having been through concussion protocol myself, it's really just, like, hard to gauge. That's part of the reason why this is such a big issue for the NFL, like all of the concussions and all of the head injuries and stuff, is because it's not like an ankle injury where you step on the field and you're like, yeah, I can't cut. It's kind of something where it only gets aggravated if they throw you into the fire and you get hit again, and then it becomes really bad. But before that, you don't know. So, I don't know. They have loads of good receivers there. Maybe they just sit him this week.
I feel long-term for the year, they might end up just sitting him because the Buccaneers have any playoff hopes. They're going to need their receiving corps intact entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's impossible to have a projected timetable because there are no like clear – there are signs, but there's no like – you can't do like – it's not like a torn muscle or a broken bone or a sprain or a strain.
Right.
Like it's all feeling based, and you rely on the feedback of the players so much in this whole process.
Right. Which automatically, I think, with the culture of football, especially at the lower levels too, there is a little less trust given to the players because obviously a player wants to play, right? So they're not going to let a little headache stop, them playing on the weekend or whatever. So. Who knows? I think that the flip side of that argument, though, is that Chris Godwin might be a huge asset this weekend in a winnable game. They play the Carolina Panthers, and I think that is an extremely winnable game, especially because I think, like, you saw it on the weekend too, like, even though they allowed, like, quite a few points, Tampa Bay defense is real. Like, they're legit. They're making a lot of plays. They're flying around the field. Devin White is an absolute psycho. And Levante David is honestly a psycho too, which I was not expecting. But I just think that it's going to be hard for Tom Brady and the rest of the offense to get used to what Tom Brady is used to. And realistically, that's the only way this works. Like, they got to get on Brady's page, not the other way around. He's not a super adaptable quarterback, is what I'm saying. And I think that as soon as they can get those discipline issues under control, as soon as they can get those communication issues under control, and I think they'll be much better off and they'll live up to all this hype.
Well, here's the thing: the Bucs defense. They kept it a close game. Final score is 34-23. Take away 7 points from the pick six from Brady. That's a close game, and that's a very winnable game for the Buccaneers. Their defense can play.
Add another pick where that pick with Mike Evans, that The Saints started on their side of the field with that pick too.
Yeah.
So it was already so they have a touchdown, they have a short field they have to work with. Take those away, that's 14 points. That's only 20 points allowed. So I mean,
yeah, like the defense can play. It's just the offense did not put them in very favorable situations at all.
Right.
So moving on from that.
Yeah.
So you got one more thing?
No, I completely agree.
Okay. So this might not be entirely fantasy related, but still good news. Richard Sherman lands on the injured reserve. I believe he'll be able to, or is eligible to come back in 3 weeks. How does this affect the San Francisco 49ers and their ability to win?
Well, I wasn't actually able to. Oh, it's a leg injury, so it's not COVID related. I think that at least for the next 3 weeks, the time that he for sure can't be on the field, I think that what you have to look for is maybe, if you're trying to decide between two guys and one of them is playing against the 49ers at receiver, then I think you need to pick the guy who's playing against the 49ers. Their whole defense is good, but obviously Richard Sherman is the cornerstone. So I think that it can be fantasy related, and that I think you'll see a big rise in production from entire offenses, honestly. Richard Sherman is that kind of player. And he might be a little bit washed up at this point, but the thing is, it's with corners, it's not usually how well they actually defend the pass. It's about how well offenses think they will defend the pass. So they won't throw to Sherman if they think he's going to break it up every time, even if he won't break it up every time, even if he won't break it up anytime. They still won't throw to him because he has this moniker and this
fear factor.
And yeah, exactly. That's it. Because if you were I don't know, Gardner Minshew, and you had the opportunity to throw to some scrub on the other side, or you had the opportunity to throw against Richard Sherman, who would you pick?
I'm gonna take that scrub.
Yeah. So I just think that you can look for a big uptick in production from any receiver that plays with 49ers, honestly, because they don't really have a second guy that's viable the same way Richard Sherman was.
Yeah, and also we saw like a couple years ago, and yes, this was the year Jimmy G got hurt, but when Richard Sherman wasn't producing, and when he wasn't playing that well, when he wasn't getting turnovers, and when I'm not going to say offenses didn't fear him, but he wasn't that guy. Like last year, he stepped it up in a big way, but the year before, he wasn't that good. Like he looked like the guy who justifiably got cut from the Seahawks because of an injury. And so losing him altogether, like you can say the version of him from 2 years ago was somewhat washed, okay, but it's still a solid corner. You take him out, I don't know what the San Francisco 49ers are going to be able to do from that standpoint. And also, it makes it a lot easier because every cornerback has to go up the depth chart. A bench guy's going to end up starting. He's not going to be prepared. He's going to be thrown into the fire. And ultimately, it's a dream situation for wide receivers, especially guys lower on the depth chart who might be like the second or third stringer going up against bench-level corners.
Right, and you better believe that Shanahan is going to try to attack those corners too, and scheme guys open on the 49ers offense, which is what he does best. Or anybody who plays, sorry.
Yeah, shit.
Anybody who plays the 49ers is going to attack that guy and scheme people open on the side of the player that doesn't usually start. And that's just football 101, right? Like if someone's
that's
hurt.
That's just basic matchups.
Yeah. So I think, like I said, huge uptick, I think, in any receiver that plays against the 49ers. I think Richard Sherman was a big part of that offense. And I think with corners and DBs a lot of the time, you don't necessarily see how big of an impact they're doing, because realistically, if a DB was doing their job perfectly, they'd never get thrown at. So I don't know. I think it's, yeah, like I said, there's nothing really else to happen other than expect there to be higher scoring games than 49ers games, and expect there to be, a lot more receiver production against the 49ers defense than there has been in the past.
So moving on to some injury news. Lane Johnson will be playing this weekend, according to Lane Johnson.
Stud.
When asked about playing this week, he said count on it.
Yep.
What does this mean for an Eagles offense that looked lost against the Washington football team?
Well, I mean, that started with their offensive line. So their offensive line was terrible. Actually, honestly, I think that the Redskins defense is pretty legit this year.
They've got a great defense.
Yeah.
They can win games just because of their defense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not like top 5, but definitely I'd say probably top 10 in the league for sure. Top half without any doubt at all. And I just honestly think that this is going to be a continuance of the Eagles' struggles on offense, and it's always been their offensive line. It's always been their receivers. Like
there's been something.
It's the same shit.
There's been something wrong with the Eagles' offense.
Yeah, for sure. And Lane Johnson is the only consistent part of that O-line. So I can't see him just stepping out because of an injury. It's kind of like what I said about Chris Godwin, like or George Kittle. I mean, I can't see him just like stepping out for a reason. Yeah. So Lane Johnson is another one of those big grinder, grit type guys, and I think he realizes that Carson Wentz is going to get absolutely slaughtered in the backfield if Lane Johnson isn't on the field, and he's probably still going to get slaughtered anyway, no matter what.
Yeah. And also, like the thing with football and players playing through injuries as opposed to NBA and load management, every game in the NFL matters so much more than a given game in basketball.
Right.
Because the NFL season is so short. There's 16 games, going to be 17. Every game matters. Like one little slip up can screw you out of a bye. It can screw you out of a playoff spot. Like, look at what happened with the Patriots. Like, they lost to the low-life Miami Dolphins, and that screwed them.
Yep.
Like, there are no throwaway games in the NFL unless you're, like, 14-1, 15-0, stuff like that.
Unless you're mathematically set no matter what, then there's no gimme games.
Unless you physically cannot lose, or unless you physically cannot lose your playoff spot or lose the division, there is no such thing as a throwaway game.
Right.
Look what happened to the Colts. They lost to the Jags, who some people are saying are going to have the number 1 overall pick. That's going to screw them later on in the year. It's going to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, because, I mean, as much as I'm writing an article later on this week, a little sneak peek here for you guys. I'm writing an article later this week called Fact or Fluke. And basically what I'm going to do there is I'm going to try to do one every week where I go through things that happen that we can continue to expect to see happen, or things that happen that are, flukes. And I think,
see like comments on Mitchell Trubisky's game on there.
Yeah, fluke, for sure. Gardner Minshew, love the guy, fluke. Tom Brady, played terrible, fluke. But I think that, like you said, games are so important especially in the NFC East, where every team is finishing with 6, 7, 8, or 9 wins ish.
There's always talk about a team finishing like 7-9 and winning the division.
Yeah. Well, what was the Eagles' record last year? 9-7.
If they lost against the Giants, it would have been an 8-8 winner for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
The Cowboys were fighting to be 500 in the last week of the season last year, and they were fighting for a playoff spot.
And I hate to say it because I really like Carson Wentz, but I think this is another L this weekend. They are on the road. Oh, no, they're at home, but they are.
Yeah, that does jack shit this year.
They are against the LA Rams and my boy Aaron Donald.
Allow me to introduce you to my little friend.
Yes, and I think that a team with O-line issues is going to have a very, very hard time with the Rams defense.
Quite possible we see Wentz getting knocked to the turf for another 8 sacks.
Yeah, I could see Donald getting 4 sacks this weekend.
Oh yeah,
and especially if Lane Johnson doesn't play.
Yeah, he tossed the left guard into the center. No, he tossed the left
A
guard
Pro
center
Bowl
into
left
the
guard.
right guard of the Cowboys.
A
Like,
Pro Bowl left guard.
yes. And just took out Zach Martin. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry, Carson Wentz. You are going to be well acquainted with the turf this week.
He's going to be well acquainted with Aaron Donald. I'll tell you that for free.
Nice. Staying on the injury news, Le'Veon Bell lands on injured reserve after he tweeted out, "There isn't anything wrong with my hamstring." He said that his hamstring was fine. Clearly it isn't. He will be eligible to return in, I believe, 3 weeks. How does this affect the Jets as a whole?
I don't care at all. I'm sick and tired of hearing that guy, to be honest with you. He walks around, he carries himself like he's a top-tier running back. He's not a top-tier running back, and he hasn't been for 2 years. So
I was watching some of the Jets game because I had Josh Allen in fantasy. Mm-hmm. He tries to put a spin move on a defensive lineman, and he just slips.
Yeah. He loves the drama.
Yes.
He's always loved the drama. And I think that no matter what's wrong with his hamstring, like, it's not like he had great fantasy value anyway.
The only reason he was somewhat viable last year was simply because of the sheer amount of touches he got. The only reason he was a somewhat capable RB2 is because he just got a crap ton of touches.
Yeah, well, this year is
year Frank Gore.
Yeah, I think that Frank Gore is going to get a lot of carries, for sure.
Yeah. Also, just the Jets' offense is a tire fire to begin with.
Yeah, the Jets' offense is always bad. Colin Cowherd said it, but I've always sort of been saying this too, is there's 4 or 5 teams that are always consistently run badly in the NFL.
Jets, Browns,
Bengals, Redskins.
Those are the big 3.
Yeah. And those are the big 3. After that, it kind of rotates a little bit. Like for a few years back there, you probably could have said the Jaguars. Since their playoff run with Blake Bortles, since then they've been consistently one of the worst run teams in the NFL. And then after that, you probably put Washington right up there as well.
Yeah.
Miami or Brian Flores, but I think Brian Flores is a really good coach. So
they definitely got the coach right in Miami.
Yeah, for sure.
And then got 2 more pieces of injury news. First one is Randy Bullock's injury is bullshit. There's tweets coming out about, the problem with his left calf, that something happened to it, after the field goal. He was grabbing for his right calf. You can watch the replay. He was grabbing for his right calf after the kick, well after the kick. So what do we do with this? Is it just a kicker trying to, I guess, find an excuse for shanking a kick?
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is, to be honest with you. And this happens probably more often than not, or more often than one would think, just because, the NFL, it's these guys' job, right? It's their livelihood, and that's the kind of thing that gets kickers cut. So I think there's been 6 kickers already cut this year. So 3 of them from the Patriots, actually.
Gostkowski would have been cut if he didn't hit that game winner.
Absolutely. And so, one bad game can be the difference between you having a job next week and you not having a job next week, especially as a kicker, because there's about 10,000 other kickers in the U.S. right now who could do exactly the same thing. And so, I don't know, maybe that's just trying to save face, trying to keep his job. If they have to put him on IR, they can't cut him. So,
yeah. Look, unless your name's Justin Tucker, as a kicker, you are just extremely volatile. Unless your name's Justin Tucker, there is almost no consistency.
Yeah, there's a couple guys, a couple punters and kickers, Adam Vinatieri was like that. Steven Gostkowski used to be like that. Justin Tucker, I think Dustin Colquitt, even though he's more of a punter, is pretty secure. I used to think Marquette King was secure before the Raiders pulled an absolutely Raider move and cut him. There's very few kickers that have very much wiggle room, and if they're not getting cut, week by week, they're getting cut at the end of the year. Like there's teams that have a new kicker every year.
Right.
Like some of those consistently poorly run teams that I just talked about usually have a different kicker every single year. So extremely volatile position. Guy was trying to save face. He just messed up when they took a picture of him grabbing his right calf.
Yeah. And then final piece of injury news, and more so just discussion. When James Conner exited the Monday Night Football game with an ankle injury, Benny Snell filled in, and he was amazing.
Electric.
The Conner did not practice today. Steelers had quite a few players on the injury report. Does Benny Snell start over James Conner, even if he plays?
I mean, whether or not he starts, I'm just trying to look for the stats right now. Hold on. I'm probably scrolling right by it, aren't I? Yeah, I was. So it's hard to ignore that kind of performance. It's hard to. And I think that no matter what with running, it's not like a quarterback, right, where nobody really rotates quarterbacks. Whether or not James Conner starts, I think that Benny Snell will end up with more touches. And 19 carries for like 120 yards. That's 5.9 yards a carry. It's pretty good. Yeah, you got to roll with the hot hand, especially running back. I don't think James Conner has done anything to prove that he's untouchable. There's certain players in the league that are pretty much untouchable. And even though James Conner has been pretty good for the Steelers for the past couple of years, I don't think he's like that.
Also, at the end of the day, like James Conner, this is last year on his contract. Steelers they're essentially screwed for cap space.
Yep. And if Benny Snell can get the job done, they're going to want to do that because they can keep him on a rookie contract for at least a couple of years.
He's so cheap.
Yeah.
Like he's automatically going to be cheaper than whatever you have to pay Conner on the open market.
Right.
And Anthony McFarland Jr., who I brought him up as who the fuck is that guy, who can fill in, more of an explosive guy, stretch the ball outside perimeter. He can produce as well. He's a rookie coming this year. Steelers can have two solid running backs on rookie contracts for at least the next 2 years.
Right. And I mean, that's kind of what I don't know if I've said it on this show before, but that's always kind of what I've said about teams in Super Bowl windows. If you look at a lot of teams that win the Super Bowl, it's not guys who went out and got all the superstars on huge contracts in the offseason. It's the guys who have a couple of young stars that they have really cheap, and those stars ball out. Like you could look at that with Russell Wilson when they beat the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, by the way, that had record-breaking offense that whole year. And it was absolutely mind-blowing when Peyton Manning was there, the kind of production they've had in Denver that they've never really ever had since the Elway era. But it's extremely linear what you see with trends as far as young stars and stars that are on rookie contracts and winning Super Bowls, right? Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson is going to make a Super Bowl run at some point on his rookie contract, I promise you. Great teams usually have young stars that they don't have to pay, is my point. And the Kansas City Chiefs are a poster child for that because they have a lot of them.
So, like, teams who are able to draft well often have a solid Super Bowl window.
Yep.
The Saints had a Super Bowl window for the past couple years because they drafted extremely well.
Yep.
But the reason it's called a window.
They didn't have to pay Kamara, they didn't have to pay Thomas.
They didn't have to pay Ryan Ramczyk. They didn't have to pay Marshawn Lattimore. Those guys are coming up. They're going to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You either need a quarterback on a rookie contract, quarterback who's willing to take well below market value, like what the Patriots did for the past 20 years.
Yep.
Or you just need to draft extremely well.
Right. And I mean, I'm going to take a chance here to take a shot at the Cowboys with this too.
Please do.
They're it's extremely sad that they didn't win a Super Bowl, and I think it just goes to show how dysfunctional that organization is. And they're not necessarily run badly. There's just always certain things that you can count on the Cowboys doing. They're never consistent, and they always choke. But they would have been a perfect poster child for that concept too, because Dak Prescott was on a rookie contract. Ezekiel Elliott was on a rookie contract. Leighton Vander Esch was on a rookie contract. And now they have CeeDee Lamb on a rookie contract. But then they go out and have an absolute stinker against the very beatable LA Rams. And I just don't think they have it this year, even though they should, because that's 5 young stars that they're not paying star money yet. Leighton Vander Esch is going to be one of the highest paid defensive players in the league. Dak Prescott wants $40 million a year, which is ridiculous, but that's how much he wants. Ezekiel Elliott obviously got paid a whole ton of money. Who else did I say? CeeDee Lamb, I suspect, is going to be unreal. And
Amari Cooper's making big money too.
Yeah, Amari Cooper's making good money, true, for sure. But what I'm saying is they have a lot of young stars that their offense and defense revolves around. And I really think that Byron Jones before this year too, absolute star, rookie contract. Right? Gone.
They couldn't pay him.
They couldn't pay him because they know that they're going to have to either try to pay Dak and keep money for CeeDee Lamb, or pay Dak and pay Leighton Vander Esch and then maybe not pay CeeDee Lamb. So, but they're sort of they wasted their Super Bowl window now, because now they don't have much room to work with, especially after Dak signs his contract. No room.
Yeah, because, and I tweeted this out yesterday or a couple of days ago, like, Cowboys are the same. Like, you hear all this talk like, oh, they have this guy. They have 3,000-yard receivers. No, Zeke, he puts up great numbers. Dak, insane numbers last year. What did it get them? 17 points and a loss.
Yep.
Like, so much for all this fucking hype. It doesn't accomplish anything. They've won one playoff game since Dak Prescott got drafted.
Right. And we were talking about this on our Slack channel the other day, but stats are all fine and good, but Tim Tebow threw, what was it, 53%?
Completion percentage, something like that.
He was low 50s in his passing completion percentage, for sure under 60, just off the top of my head. And he won a playoff game against the Steelers that were a powerhouse that year. So,
by the way, like, that's one of the biggest, like, random fluke performances ever. He threw for like 316 yards that game. Well, by the way, that year, Tim Tebow's completion percentage, 46.
Right. Exactly. But what I'm saying by this is, I would rather throw 46% and win a playoff game against the Steelers than throw 80% and not win a playoff game.
There's something that can be said about players who they may not produce well in the regular season, but if they're just able to catch lightning in a bottle one time and just go on this ridiculous run, like Nick Foles.
James White in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl against the Falcons.
Yeah, like he just catches lightning in a bottle, seizes the moment, and does something with it. And
yeah, James White was just messing around all year and then casually decided to come back from a 28-3 lead against the Falcons. So, I mean, that's a great example of that.
Yeah, and also, like, the Nick Foles run. Like, that is the most ridiculous definition of catching lightning in a bottle and just riding it.
I don't think I'll ever forget that night when I started Nick Foles and everybody was making fun of me, and then he threw 7 tugs against the Raiders, and he had, like, 56 fantasy points or something stupid.
Yeah, like, just these random games when they come at the right time. Like, thing with the Cowboys, like, they always put up numbers, but they don't equal anything. Like, they don't win enough games for the talent that they have. Like, Carson Wentz was able to single-handedly put the Eagles on his back last year and beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do a sort of verbal meme here. just gonna go down and just checking to see if y'all still them boys. All right, we're done with that. We're done with that conversation. I hate the Cowboys so much. There's no team I like to see lose more than the Cowboys.
Exactly. So, all right, moving into our final segment, draft day disappointments. After an eventful week 1, what are some regrets you have from draft day for your fantasy football drafts? Did you take someone too high? Did you spend too much on a certain player? Is your depth just turned to shit? Cayne, what are some of your regrets from our fantasy football draft following week 1?
Well, as you know, I'm a big depth guy.
Oh, yes. Walked out of the auction with a whole $7 for a kicker. You didn't even start. Didn't even play.
Yep, I know.
Kicker.
It's okay. We're a fourth quarter team, and it's going to be no different. I'm just going to my team right now so I can tell you exactly numbers and stats.
Tell you right now, your 2 quarterbacks are Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield.
I was actually pleasantly surprised with Baker Mayfield.
Pleasantly surprised with a touchdown, a pick, and 50% completion percentage?
Yeah, well, he still got me like 11 points. So,
okay, and that's 11 points from a quarterback. I was
pleasantly surprised by it.
That's 11 points from a quarterback.
Yeah, my flex quarterback. But anyway,
still a quarterback.
I regret spending so much money on Joe Mixon, and I regret spending so much money on Odell. I guess I had the right idea with Odell because he was targeted, I think, 11 times on the weekend. It's just that ball. Like I was hanging out watching the game with my buddy who's a Browns fan, and he wasn't even that rattled. Like you can't expect week 1 with a short off season and a new system. You can't expect to roll into Baltimore and beat up on Baltimore. Like you just can't. So I mean, I just think the Browns are going to be better this year. I think their offense is going to be better, but I think it was just a tough week for them. But yeah, so I spent a lot of money on Joe Mixon. I spent a lot of money on Odell. I'm sure a lot of you did the same thing out there, and I regret it because they got me a total of 8 points together.
Scotty Miller got me 7.9.
Odell had 2.2 and so 7. They got me 7.3 because Odell had 2.2 and Joe Mixon had 5.1.
Who the fuck's that guy? Was better than 2 of your big buck guys. Love to see it. One of my regrets is yeah, you better.
Taking the L right here. It's on my forehead.
One of my regrets is definitely spending like $70 on Barkley because Big Ben outrushed him.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Barkley,
Big Ben.
I have never heard anything negative come out of Saquon Barkley's mouth ever until I saw a video of him bitching out his O-line this week at practice. Like saying, oh, what do we got to do to get you guys fired up and all this stuff? And honestly, usually when I see that stuff, I'm like, man, just fucking play football. But this time I saw it and I was like, you're goddamn right, you, man. Saquon. You are goddamn right, Saquon, because that is terrible. Saquon Barkley could be the best running back in the league. Man, you put Saquon Barkley behind that Cowboys offensive line, he rushes for 2,000 yards.
You put anyone behind that Cowboys offensive line, they're going to do well.
Yeah, that's why I don't think Zeke's that good. But
and like this weekend, what the fuck stats? Big Ben more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley. James Conner more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley, and Conner barely played the game.
Yeah, Big Ben's regaining his college form and running a little bit more.
AFC North, division of dual threats. I'm telling you.
He's the white Cam Newton, I'm telling you.
Exactly. And then another thing I have is not having a solid receiver. Because going into the weekend, I had Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Scotty Miller. Thielen and Diggs were real. Like, I was relying on running backs to carry my team. That didn't happen. That just did not happen.
Thielen and Diggs in theory are a good combo, though. because I mean, they're both, in theory, they're both very, very productive receivers. I think.
Well, here's the thing. Thielen had me jack shit. And I sent this in Slack. I'm like, hey, so does anyone have, wide receivers available?
Yeah.
And then he just comes out of the game having like 25, 28 points.
And then Alex,
where the hell did that
Alex
come from?
messages me and asked me for D-Hop, and I was like, no shot. D-Hop is the only one who did anything on my team this week. But, yeah, oof. How much money did you spend on Gronk?
Like 18.
That's a lot of money for Gronk, I think.
Yeah,
listen, everybody was super excited about Gronk. Everybody was so pumped to see him leave.
It wasn't that I was just hyped. It's just like I kind of needed it.
No, I know. I'm not saying you were, but I'm just saying everybody was hyped about him. He was coming back to his life. He was coming from the mean streets of Miami, where he had spent the past year and a bit doing blow and hanging out with hookers, and he comes back. I don't know why anybody. I know why everybody was excited.
Living his best life. Living his best life.
I don't know why anybody expected him to come back and be a star again.
Because he wasn't that good when he last played 2 years ago.
And you know what? Like, he had injuries and stuff, but like everybody knows the kind of guy Gronk is. Yeah. Everybody knows what he does when he isn't playing football. He just spent a whole year doing that stuff, and I just think, I don't know. I feel like I can't play football ever again after one night of drinking. What about 5 nights a week of drinking and then coming back and trying to play in the NFL? It's very tough. And I mean, it's just, he is a very special, talented player. But I think this is just sort of a
storyline.
OJ Howard and Cameron Braid are going to get most of the catches, and Gronk's just going to be used as a blocker. So I think $18 is a lot for him.
The one thing I'm happy about is I do have solid depth. Like, I'm able to make rotations. I can't even make a trade with you because you're screwed for the cap.
Just for some context, guys. Context, I have 0 players on my bench currently.
Starting lineup, and part of it is you don't even have a starting lineup. You don't have a kicker.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Matt Gay, right?
Yeah.
He's not even on the roster.
Come on, really? Hold on.
He's not on the roster.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was saying this to you over the weekend.
I wonder why he had a bye in week 1. Damn. Okay. Well, I'll fix that after this video is done.
He has a bye indefinitely right now.
Yeah, you know what? I have a lot of shit going on, Scott.
Okay. I know. We talked about it before.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, my regret. Not great starting wide receivers, but I have a lot of $1 flyer guys. By the way, you called me fried for starting Scotty Miller over DJ Moore. Scotty Miller had the better week.
We'll see. There's a lot of football left, to quote you.
I know. Funniest part was we're talking about the game. Bucks first drive. Brady rushing touchdown. Adam comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I told you guys there's going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Next drive, interception. Rest of the game happens. Not a peep.
You know what? As a big Tom Brady fan, I've already had a rough week already. I don't need to be hearing this from you, Scott. I don't, okay? Tom Brady is the truth, okay? Tom Brady is the greatest trophy husband of all time. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the greatest trophy.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying he's done.
Go trophies. So don't be talking shit on Tom Brady because he is the man.
Was the man. Not anymore.
Hold on.
Struggling with math there?
No, I'm just trying to figure out how many rings Tom Brady has.
Okay, that's cool. That is Lifetime Achievement Award. That doesn't mean anything coming into this year.
Can you tell me the number of rings? I want to hear it come out of your mouth.
It doesn't matter at this point in his career. No.
Say it.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Say it. This picture's a hell of a thumbnail, by the way.
It is. It really is. Anyway, that's it for the show.
6. That's how many. 6. Best ever. Don't at me.
All right. So, do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't.
No, those are your closing remarks. Oh, one more thing. Check out the store. I'm wearing a shirt. Got in the mail. Cayne isn't. We'll get there soon. You'll get.
I haven't hit 50 posts
soon.
yet. When I do, I'll get a shirt.
Huh?
I haven't hit 50 posts yet. When I do, I'll get a shirt.
Yeah. When you do, you'll get a shirt. And yeah, check out the store. Check out the website, vendettasportsmedia.com. Football's back. We're excited for it. We're all loving it. Fantasy football, you always got to think about it. Make sure you get starting kickers. Make sure you actually have a bench. Make sure you actually have starters on your team.
You know, the shirts, when you buy them, put them on, actually make you better at fantasy football.
Exactly. So, I didn't get it before the weekend. That's why I lost.
If you bet $100 that you would win a fantasy league, and you pay $30 for a shirt, it's a good investment.
That is a good investment because if you have 8 people in that league, $800 pool, spend $30 for a shirt, that's just good business.
Big returns.
Make the smart investment. Buy a shirt. Buy some merch. We're gonna have some new stuff on the way soon. And thank you all for watching.
Have a good one, guys.